I am rising to speak on motion M79, sponsored by the member of Elmwood Transcona, which proposes a permanent change to the standing orders respecting confidence motions. Before I speak to the content of the proposal contained in motion M79, I would like to discuss some important principles that should guide our work when contemplating changes to the standing orders, especially when the changes would be permanent changes to the rules of the House. There is a long-standing tradition of this House in considering changes to our standing orders. This tradition includes two important principles. First, that any change or suite of changes should benefit from a thorough study by the Standing Committee on Procedure and House Affairs, and secondly, that any change to the rules that govern our deliberation should be done on a consensual basis. The importance of having changes to the standing orders be considered by the Procedure and House Affairs Committee seems to be self-evident to most members of this House. These are our rules. They guide all the work we conduct in this place, and any change must be well understood by all members of this House. As a result, the Procedure and House Affairs Committees plays an important role in studying the standing orders as they are and propose changes before they can be considered by the whole House. In fact, Standing Order 51, Chapter 7, which deals with the special debates that this House may take up and is the subject of the proposed amendment contained in motion M79, provides a mechanism that requires the House to study the standing orders at the beginning of each Parliament. Standing Order 51 provides that the government, through a minister, must designate an order of the day for the consideration of a motion to take note of the standing orders and procedures of the House, which has precedence over all other business. The debate on the designated day is then permanently referred to the Procedure and House Affairs Committee for study. By having these debates permanently referred to the Procedure and House Affairs Committee allows that the committee to take up studies over the course of a Parliament to review and consider changes to the standing orders. The purpose of Standing Order 51 is to allow members to bring forward ideas on changes to the standing orders, which can then be studied by the Procedure and House Affairs Committee. During the committee's study of the standing orders, the committee can hear from expert witnesses, including the clerk of the House and other senior procedural clerks, to bring to the attention of the members possible adverse consequences that may result of certain changes. This expert testimony ensures that the members of the committee consider changes to our rules by using an evidence-based process. Witnesses may also suggest changes to the proposed standing order changes to ensure consistency and alignment with other standing orders and practices of the House. I believe that the Procedure and House Affairs Committee plays an essential role in reviewing the standing orders, and I know that the members on that committee take this work very seriously and with great deal of pride. We must always keep in mind that the changes to our standing orders affects every member of this House, and we not only need to get it right, but we also need to know and appreciate the long-term consequences of such changes. When we make changes in a majority context, we need to appreciate and understand how these changes will operate in a minority context, and the inverse is just as important. I would now like to turn my attention and that of the members to motion M79. The member for Elmwood Transcona has selected as his item of private members' business motion 79 on confidence motions. The motion would create a new scheme in the special debates chapter in the standing orders dealing with confidence motions. The preamble of motion M79 states in part A and 4, and I quote, A, it is prerogative of the Crown to prorogue or dissolve Parliament at its pleasure. And 4, the Confidence Convention has never been clearly codified, and this has sometimes led to confusion among members and the general public as to the nature and significance of certain oaths. End of quote. I would like to spend part of my remarks on the Crown prerogatives. Page 43 of the House of Commons Procedure and Practice states, in relation to the Confidence Convention, and I quote, an essential feature of parliamentary government is that the Prime Minister and the Cabinet are responsible to, or must answer to, the House of Commons for their actions and must enjoy the support and confidence of a majority of the members of that chamber to remain in office. This is commonly referred to as the Confidence Convention. This complex constitutional subject, a matter of tradition that is not written in any statute or standing order of the House. End of quote. As you can see, the royal prerogatives are not found in statute or in the standing orders. There is, however, one reference to confidence in the standing orders, that is Standing Order 6, in relation to the election of the Speaker. Precedents are clear that this provision is unnecessary and outdated, since the House itself elects the Speaker of the House and the Executive no longer plays any formal role in the election of the Speaker. House of Commons Procedure and Practice on page 43 goes on to articulate the point that confidence is not a matter of parliamentary procedure, and I quote, what constitutes a question of confidence in the government varies with circumstances. Confidence is not a matter of parliamentary procedure, nor is it something on which the Speaker can be asked to rule. End of quote. There was a time when there were references in the standing orders to motions of non-confidence in relation to the consideration of supply. Page 44 of the House of Commons Procedure and Practice sets out how the standing orders were modified in this regard, and when these changes were removed, and I quote, when standing orders respecting supply were amended in 1968, it was specified that in each of the 3 supply periods, the opposition could designate not more than 2 of the motions proposed on allotted days as motions of non-confidence in the government. This was the first time the notion of confidence found expressions in the standing orders. This rule was modified provisionally in March 1975 to remove the non-confidence qualification. The motion would still be brought to a vote, but the vote would not automatically be considered as an expression of confidence in the government. The provisional standing orders lapsed in at the beginning of the following session, and the term found its way back into the 1977 version of the standing orders. No further changes were made until June 1985, when the standing orders were again modified to remove the non-confidence provision with regard to supply. End of quote. So at present, there have been no operative standing orders that deal with confidence for 43 years. There's a good reason for this. Since many Crown prerogatives have been superseded by statutes, there are still royal prerogatives that are not found in the statute, but including but not limited to foreign affairs and treaty making and the powers to prorogue or dissolve Parliament. Now that I have addressed the notion of the Crown prerogatives in relating to the prerogatives to prorogue or dissolve Parliament, I would like to speak to the mechanics of how motion M79, if adopted, would operate. Because of the time constraint, maybe, Speaker, I'll try to wrap it up. I have not made up my mind on whether I will support the motion or oppose it. I will say, however, that I do think that this motion would be benefited from a study at the procedure and House affairs, so we could really dig into the interplay between the role that outstanding orders and the Crown prerogatives and whether the scheme that is proposed in motion M79 is acceptable in the context of our rules, given the ephemeral nature non-confidence motion have existed in our standing orders. Finally, I do not think that the 2 one-hour debates is sufficient to fully understand the implications of this motion would have on the procedures and practices of this House. That said, I'll continue to have an open mind about the proposal because I do have great respect for my colleague from Elmwood Transcona and for the views of other members who will speak in debate on this motion. Thank you, Mr.